Hey, we got that!
Well, I'm Nicholas.
I'm Alex.
And this is Doctor Who on the Twin Review.
So, we are finally at the pyramid at the end of the world. And
Are we? I don't see it.
the episode.
Which is what we're talking about today!
That's right.
And left.
Dave, if you're watching this, I'm sorry.
So we didn't get too far into the episode before I had my own theory, especially once we revealed who the monsters were, the monks, and they had the pyramid and yada yada yada. But I had a theory that these creatures, because they said about the consent, needing consent, were not actually here to destroy the world, but were rather a civilization that would come in a moment of weakness, in a moment of calamity, using their little future threads to figure out when civilizations...
Threads of time.
The threads of time. Is that what they were called?
I know, that's fine.
The threads of time. To figure out when a civilization was going to reach catastrophe, and using whatever magical powers they have, would come in with the desire to rule, but as they said, ruling out of fear is temporary, where ruling out of love is, as the doctor said, slavery. But that fear, ruling out of fear, was inefficient. So my theory was, as we discovered, I was correct this time.
Yes. You know, and...
That they would... Let me finish my story. That they would come in and save him in a moment of weakness with their consent and rule that way. Continue.
But one thing I did notice about these monks is, to me, they are very similar to the monks at the fires of Pompeii. You know, they're old and decrepit looking, they have similar robes, and they didn't have so much of like the eye things. But, because it's also cool, it's interesting that, you know, at the pyramid, they're mummified creatures, you know.
So do you think that's what they actually look like? Because what they said to the humans at the beginning was that they chose that form for the sake of the humans, and they said, but you look like corpses, and they said, you are corpses to us.
No, I mean, they're more like temporal beings, where they can change their form to what they need them to look like.
Right, so I mean, that's kind of an insult. You are corpses to us, and I don't know if that's because they view them as a civilization about to end, or if they view them that way because they exist outside of time themselves, so they are finite, they're basically dead in comparison to the infinite lifespan of these
Monk creatures.
Freakish monk creatures.
Yes. One thing that was funny is just that Bill and Penny's actual date gets also interrupted.
Oh, what was the date like in the dream? We were interrupted by the Pope. Oh, what's it going to be like in real life? Interrupted by the
Secretary General
of the
the UN. Like the Doctor, who's also the president of the world in crisis. I like how he's almost kind of like the rock and roll doctor. He's got the sunglasses. He always has the guitar. Like that's his thing.
Well, that's Capaldi.
Yeah.
Capaldi was in a rock band. Did you know?
Well, yeah, but I like that aspect of him.
I don't even know what to think about this episode. Like, there was so much going on. Oh, I did realize the previous episode we had theorized, because when the Doctor said about what do particle physicists and priests both fear, and your theory, I think it was your theory, right?
Yeah, epidemic.
About an epidemic. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. It was an epidemic. It was a bacterial infection that would end the world, that would cause both particle physicists and priests to fear. So I wonder, are we genuinely clever? Let's believe that. We like to believe that we're genuinely clever. Or we're just good at reading the clues that Moffat has put in the episodes for us to figure out. Little bits of information.
I mean, I feel I'm pretty clever myself.
You had most of the correct theories anyway. Bring back River Song.
There was one thing that the episode kind of egged on, at least I felt, was like a whole one world order kind of thing.
I mean, I guess it was just three civilizations being like, well, we're not going to cause war ourselves, so piece together for the sake of defeating this alien civilization that was attacking. We were actually watching this episode with our mother, and our mother came to some interesting connections between the correlation of these creatures, these divine, mysterious creatures that exist outside of time, and some considerations of our understanding of God if you will. The idea that to rule, because she was saying that the doctor said to finish these creatures, the monk's statement that love is slavery. And her mom was bringing up the concept that in the Bible there's many references in which Paul, in some of his letters in the New Testament, writes that basically he is a slave to Christ, he is a slave to that God, the God of love. Paraphrasing that a little bit, but just that she was noticing some odd connections between the description of love from the doctor's standpoint and the way in which these creatures desired to rule with love versus ruling in fear, and the way that that God is viewed in the Bible. So, a little tidbit of information there.
It's amazing to me how the world ended basically due to human stupidity. The guy came in hungover.
Oh yeah, that's the real lesson of this episode. Number 1, don't drink. Or get drunk, I should say.
Well,
and number 2, if you do, don't go to work hungover, especially if you work in a chemical lab.
Yeah, especially if you're working in a
That's
chemical
the
lab.
moral of this story.
But then Nardole said, what's the most important thing in the world? Air, water, food, beer.
I think he said, what do bacteria need? I think was the question, I thought.
No, I think what's important to life? Air, water, food,
right.
beer.
Nardole.
But yes, if you're hungover, don't go to work. It's a bad idea. It just causes very dangerous things in the long run.
Nardole continues to have the great one-liners of the season.
He does.
I mean,
he does.
What's important to life? Air, water, food, beer. The doctor corrects. Air, water, food. And then the whole episode, the statement that he said about, what did the doctor say to him? Where he was like, well, I'm not just sexy. But that statement.
But yeah.
The one-liners.
Yeah, somebody like, oh, you really are smart.
I'm not just sexy. I don't think Nardole is dead, though. Because number 1, he said that his lungs were cheap, so apparently he has all different parts. He's not really human, except for apparently his lungs, meaning that human lungs are apparently easy to come by. I don't know what the doctor means by that. But I think that he's just passed out, unable to breathe. I think he will be revived. I don't think they can kill him off. It can't happen. He's too loved of material.
Right, he was still
too loved of a material. Too loved of a character.
And he was still breathing, just more like passed out, really.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that maybe the bacteria in his lungs would cause his actual lungs to dissolve and not affect the rest of his body.
Yeah.
I'm still a bit confused, though, by the very beginning, the very first episode, when Nardole walks into the room and a screw drops out of somewhere. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It's like
Is he an android? Is he part cyborg?
Yeah, like they haven't come back to that at all.
Or is it just Nardole being weird? Nardole being Nardole.
Blink.
Quietly put it beneath. I like how we both did that thing with our foot and no one on camera just saw it.
Well, yeah, that is kind of weird.
My favorite part, though, at least one of my favorite parts as far as what the doctor did, was the sheer brilliance of figuring out, okay, well, we're bringing it down to this, narrowing it down to what it could be. Turn off all the cameras. And Nardole says, well, yeah, but they could just turn them on. Exactly. So which lab just had their cameras turned back on? Knowing the enemy well enough to know how to utilize, I guess, their power to find a solution. Know your enemy.
Yeah, I guess to go back to the thought I had earlier, is because I think this main plot here is what's going to cause the Doctor to basically regenerate. I guess technically we are getting close to the end of the season. And we still have a few episodes left.
Yeah, but there might be 5 episodes. What's gonna happen in those 5 episodes? I was kind of shocked, 5 or even 7 more episodes.
Right. I mean,
if it's a 14 episode
when I was looking at the
season.
list, there was 14 for seasons, and I think we're last on this list so far was like 11. So we still have 2 more episodes that haven't been aired yet.
Wasn't this episode 7? This is episode 7 we just watched.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure. Either way, point being.
Hang on, let me pick my thought. The story that's going on right now is the main issue is that the monks are gonna take over the world, so then they gotta figure out some way to get the monks out or off of Earth, and something's gonna happen, and the Doctor's gonna, get mortally wounded and regenerate.
See, I was expecting this whole kind of scenario to be the kind of thing that happens at the end of a season, which is why I was like, is this going to be a short season? Are there only 2 more episodes left to make it an 11-episode season? I don't know. Or not 11. Maybe it was episode 9. I don't know! Either way, the kind of end of the world scenario usually happens at the end of a Doctor Who season. And I think we're more towards maybe just a little bit after the middle of it, but it seemed really early for such an extravagant story to be revealed, to be unraveled. Yeah, but maybe this is going to stretch out several more episodes, because we still have to figure out, as you were saying, what's going on with Missy, because the Doctor did ask for her help. Maybe she comes into play in actually defeating these creatures. And that would make more sense, actually. Yeah. Alright. So, Missy's basically a sociopath, and enjoys killing and everything like that, but she really enjoys the little game of cat and mouse, if you will, that's played between her and the Doctor, constantly trying to kill him, constantly. It's almost like Batman and the Joker. Like, she's like the Joker of Doctor Who. She enjoys this weird game, whatever it is. And the only time in which she helps to endure the survival of planet Earth is when it interferes with her being able to play her own little game, in which case a monk civilization of divine alien creatures who want to destroy the Earth or otherwise overtake it would come in very problematically with her desire to continue this little game that she has going on. Yeah. So that would be a way in which Missy could be recruited by the Doctor to help beat this civilization.
Yeah, and kind of like I had said about with how these monks are very similar to the monks from Fires of Pompeii, that it would be, I guess, poetic in a way of, we first saw Capaldi with monks, and this is the last time we see Capaldi with monks.
His beginning and end was with monks.
So, I mean, put in the comments down below what you think. I mean, do you think it's more of the end to come with the monks, or not?
I don't know.
I will miss Capaldi at the end of this season. And we've all come to love him as he is.
As we've all come to love every Doctor, I think.
Yeah.
Every Doctor just seems to get better and better. The stories get better and better. The production gets better and better. It just gets bigger, better, and overall, in a word, better.
I was gonna say amazing.
Oh, well. I was going on with the repetition there. Did you happen to notice with the creatures, the monks, their hands look oddly similar to the Silence?
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe they were recycling a prop, huh?
Possibly. They did kind of feel like a mixture of like the monks and the Silence.
Yeah.
Cause like even like their mouths going, oh. Like what?
Or maybe that's just bad
puppetry.
I was gonna say that. Guys, move your hands more when they talk. What? Okay. Back to texting. Oh, caught a Pokemon in Pokemon Go. Scene's over? Okay.
Cause it did seem kind of weird how, like, even when they were talking, their mouth was going.
They're fish!
I thought that was kind of odd. Because, I mean, a lot of their creatures have been very, I mean, for the most part, able to enunciate.
Do you have any theories where we're going from here? I kind of brought up the theory with Missy, but I mean, what could the next episode have?
Well, I mean, with Bill basically signing the world over to them to get the Doctor's sight back. So I'm probably going into them having control, but they talked about a link. So what kind of a link exactly?
I don't know, but I think these creatures are deceptive. They're insanely intelligent. I don't think that they are going to be the benevolent rulers that they appear as, but are using... Think about it, they've studied humanity, they know what humanity needs, how to defeat humanity. I wonder if they even need consent in every planet, or if they attack each civilization with what you do the best way. And humans are very emotional creatures. Attack them at the heart. Get them to love you, and then you can rule them.
And that is a good point.
Maybe they are far more sinister than they come across.
With most Doctor Who villains, I can imagine.
Relying on cleverness and manipulation to rule under a false sense of comfort. Dun dun dun.
And velvet glove.
So anyway, let us know in the comments below what you think your theories are. You might not even know. and where do you think we're headed with this season of Doctor Who. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all in another episode.
Bye.
Satisfied? Well, at least I committed.